Welcome to Deep Conversations Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Ryan Stewart, and today I'm blessed here to have Christopher Willars here. And before we start, I want you to tell us a little bit about where you're from and a little bit of your upbringing.
My name is Christopher Life Willars of Chicago, Illinois. Born and raised,
Mm-hmm.
Midwestern guy through and through. Bears fan, even though we took a loss to your Eagles. I seen you were an Eagles fan.
Yeah,
Uh, but Justin Fields went crazy, so
yeah,
I'm
man.
happy about
And you took my boy out, man. He out for a couple games, man.
Well, no, we don't like to see nobody, go out, but good game nonetheless. But yeah, my upbringing is like so many other, black and brown kids in this
Mm-hmm.
country. Pops tried, mom and pops tried, didn't work out. And here I am, my mother, hard worker through and through, two jobs, sometimes three to make sure we had a roof over our head. But I was a grown boy that turned into a teenager. I'm in Chicago. She's at work, after school or sometimes during school, I start to explore. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I got introduced to that side of that life right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at the same time, I was always somebody that excelled. I got good grades in school. And like I tell everybody, when I got in trouble, when I got sentenced to my time, it was behind 30 seconds of bad decisions. But prior to that, I was a kid that got A's and B's, and I was in the United States Air Force, active duty, at enlisted at 17. So that's like, I guess, in warp speed, me growing up right there in a nutshell.
Yeah. Now, growing up in Chicago, I have a cousin that lives out there now. He moved out there, but I've only been out there once. But can you talk about the like you said, for us black and brown kids, it's we tend to get pulled into, because of sometimes how society is constructed with some things, but we tend to get pulled into those kind of lifestyles. I remember, I'm gonna tell you a quick story, but I remember when I was young, it's my mother and my father had four boys, so we were all stair steps. So when we outside, we outside, and you doing whatever just to have fun. You know what I mean? And a lot of times in the neighborhood that we were at, you go down to the basketball courts, and that's where a lot of the drug dealers and stuff are. So, you know, I remember being out there one day, and I was by myself at the time. So it's me and maybe two other guys, and there was a well-known drug dealer that was around there, and we just all talking. He wasn't selling us nothing. He was just talking to us. But when the cops had pulled up, you know, I think the only thing that saved me was the cops was like, "Man, you young, get out of here." You know what I mean? But can you talk about just how that lifestyle, how it's so, or just tell people just how so easy it is to get pulled into that stuff?
Yeah. Man, so initially, before mom and pops, were on the outs, we had a house. We were in the suburbs, actually, of Chicago. Lived in a cul-de-sac. Everything
Mm-hmm.
was good. But when they parted ways, that's when we lost the house. Then we were in a townhouse. Then we
Mm-hmm.
were in apartments. And for me, it went from being in this diverse community where we were playing sports and chilling, and I could walk to school, and
Yeah.
to really quickly be in a different type of environment, and at the same time not having my father around at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm out there and I'm scared, so I'm looking for anything to latch on to, around me, in the town, in the city or whatever, which a lot of kids do. That's how they end up in gangs
Yeah.
or whatnot. They'd rather fit in than to be picked on.
Mm.
If you move a certain way, if you move against what's going on, what's popular on the block, a lot of times you become a target. So a lot, we as black and brown, we acclimate, and sometimes it's not on purpose. Sometimes it just is. It's ordained through family. It's been generations. It's pops passing it down to his sons or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's abnormal, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what people understand. It's very abnormal, and it needs to be. it needs to be approached differently. And I think everybody knows that, but it just hasn't happened.
Yeah. Now, when we um when we when we get a little older, you know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like the things, for example, you know, in school, we're not really taught business. You know what I mean? And you don't figure out this stuff until you're older. You know what I mean? Because for me, I'm 38, so I'm like, I'll be saying to myself, I'm like, man, the things that I'm learning now, you know, through business and stuff, I'm like, how come nobody told me this in school? You know what I mean? It's the school structure. Public schools, they teach you a trade. You know what I mean? And private schools, they teach you about business. So public schools, when you get older, you're gonna go use that trade and work for the people that's in private schools. You know what I mean? And sometimes, you know, like that in life and the stuff in these neighborhoods, like you said, that war speed, we don't understand the ramifications of stuff until something happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
Until you know something happens. And can you tell, for those that don't know, can you tell the situation with with you ending up going to prison?
Yeah. I was an angry kid
Mm-hmm.
from Chicago, a teenager. I got incarcerated when I was 19. So many black and brown kids between 17 to 21 they're getting locked up,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's by their own choice or not. For me, I decided for one night, just to follow an older relative.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to go, him and his friends, he was in debt. He wanted to go get some money. He wanted to go into, an establishment, rob it. He promised nobody would get, hurt physically. I believed him, and nobody got hurt physically.
Mm-hmm.
I was the driver, never went into the place. But in my mind back then, I was kind of trying to justify. It's that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I was in the military. I was the kid with the good grades. My mother taught me everything to do as a man, which I
Mm-hmm.
apply present day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just I couldn't let go. So I wanted to appease that older relative of mine. And here I'm in this situation, and I'm thinking because nobody's gonna get hurt physically, and I'm just the driver, and I'm not going in there. I'm gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
As the story goes, there was four of us all together. Two of them got in trouble for something completely separate.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up, cooperating, talking to the police officers. They ended up giving up myself and my cousin, which were, all in this case. And then it was just downhill from there.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I was completely different. My mindset was set one way. And the truth of the situation is, I didn't have to do 1 day in prison. They actually came to me with a deal and said, you can go home right now. All you got to do is just admit that your cousin did X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but here I am, a 19-year-old kid. I'm already taught, no snitching, X, Y, Z. But on
Yeah.
the other side of that as well, you're trying to make me put my cousin all the way, underneath the prison, which I know that's, my mother and his brother are they're siblings. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of different things. I didn't take the deal, ended up going to court. And I like to always tell this part of the story because I don't think people understand what happens in courtrooms.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very much like modern day slavery. It's very much just like standing on top of an auction block. Because in that courtroom, numbers are getting thrown at you, just like back in the day, numbers was getting thrown at us. So here I am, a 19-year-old kid, not too much money, public defender. The first time my public defender comes to me before I go out to the courtroom, he says, I can get you 35 years to do it. And he says it just like that. And I look at him immediately. I said, I can't do that. I said, there's no way. He says, well, what do you want me to tell him? You need to tell me something. And I literally, in like a span of 20 seconds, 19-year-old kid, I got to figure out how much time I can offer from my life to make them okay. And at the same time, give me enough time to get home and be free. And I told him, I said, just tell him I want to be home before I'm 40. And that's how I got sentenced to 19 years. They granted that wish. So yeah.
Now, I unfortunately, I've had family members and friends and things that have been in prison. And can you talk about because I think what you just said was kind of powerful, you know what I mean, of how it's really much being like on an auction block, but the the mental, can you talk about the mental strain that jail has on people? Because I feel like this generation, one of my goals for this podcast is I want to be a mentor and I want to be a big brother to a lot of young men because I feel like they think it's cool. You know what I mean? It's especially when you don't know anything that's going on, but you think prison is cool and you think that's the way to go to prove yourself. You know what I mean? If you could talk a little bit about that mental strain that has on you, because somebody's telling you what to do all day, every day.
Yeah, most definitely. First, I want to say I've lost close friends of mine who have taken their own lives behind us because of the mental strain.
Yeah.
And sometimes these are guys that have finished 12 years on a sentence and only have 2 years left. But it's the damage, it's the trauma. George Jackson said you can spend 1 minute in confinement and your life will be changed forever. So for myself, 16 years, 11 months. And within that, over 2.5 years of solitary confinement. And within that, I spent over 18 months of that straight in solitary confinement. Only for them to come out with a report, years later and say, hey, we need to move away from that. It's got adverse effects on somebody mentally, which we know. The other thing is, this was 2021. It said over 72% of the incarcerated population is affected by mental illness, whether known or unknown. But one thing that's not discussed often enough is mental health behind those walls, right? And then, you put all that in line, but I'll break it down to the 17-year-old kid that might not understand what I'm saying. If you think you crazy, go to prison, and you're gonna meet somebody that's crazier. At 20 years old, I was in the same cell block as a certified and legit serial killer by the name of Big Shirley. I remember being put in a cell block or into a cell.
You said Big Shirley?
Yeah. This is one of many that there's real live monsters behind those walls. As much as there should be people that come home, most definitely there are some people that should definitely stay behind those walls. And that doesn't get talked about. These kids, they really don't know because there's so much involved in penitentiary.
Yeah, and I was so interested in your story because like we just talked about the mental strain that can have on you, but everything has a positive to it. You know what I mean? And you've come out and you've turned that into, you being a principal and you leaving an entire school of people at a did I read 100% graduation rate?
Sir.
And that for me is, I don't understand why that's not on television. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's crazy, especially coming from public schools and all different things, to where, just school and just the environment of public schools can drain you mentally as a child, in itself. And then for you to go through that, I want you to talk about how, your idea, or what your idea was for the school and how you started in doing all of that.
Yeah. So first of all, it's a vocational school. It's a cosmetology school. We offer master cosmetology, esthetician, nails. We started our student instructor program, which we're proud to announce that. But the truth of the matter is, I had a great foundation when I came home. Prior to me coming home, I met my wife on a business call because I was running a nonprofit while I was incarcerated.
Mm.
And that turned into us being married. We just celebrated our third year anniversary.
That's a blessing.
Um, yeah, it's been work, but it's been, man, my wife's a blessing.
Oh yeah.
But the school was her vision. But while I was incarcerated, I was given the opportunity to do seminars, to host different events, and basically facilitate these different programs where I could help individuals on the inside. I was put in charge to basically just be a leader or mentor or whatever to these guys that were in reentry,
Mm.
and just kind of work on that, not just within myself, but work on it with the guys around me. And when I came home, my wife, she had this vision for the school. And what she did was she basically said, it's my vision, but you're my husband. You're the leader of my household,
Mm.
or of our household, and you should lead our business. And she seen how I was with people. She seen how I was good with taking care of people. Because I understand leadership is about serving people.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
about connecting with people. So she knew, she trusted me with that part. And, she's operation. She's the educational. She's the teacher. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, she,
Yeah.
she's really, it's her blueprint. But,
Mhm.
she blessed me with the opportunity to sit at a certain place. So we just rocking out.
Now it's my wife, we've been together, but the things that I've started doing, when I started the podcast, you know, we as men, we know how to maneuver in certain situations, but I don't think a lot of people understand the mental like intelligence of a woman. They're made to be helpmates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when they can just when they can pour into you something, it's like that's more for them than anything. You know what I mean? And it's like, and her saying, I got a vision, but I trust you enough to go through with it. You know what I mean? And then you coming back out with 100%. That
Yeah,
see?
hey, I just want to shout out the stats on that too. So the name of our school is Lasting Layers of Beauty Institute. Check us out,
Mm-hmm.
www.lastinglayersofbeautyinstitute.com. But we had 15 graduates year one,
Mm-hmm.
which we broke a record. We were proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
100% graduation rate, 100% passing rate of state board. And it has not been easy, not one day.
Mm-hmm.
But we just had our graduation last week, and it was like the dopest moment of my life because I went from doing 17 years essentially in prison to I'm up here giving a speech as a principal, and it was just, I don't know, it was crazy.
And it's there had to be a moment for you. You know what I mean? I don't know where it was, but there had to be a moment to where you kind of just you just kind of just gave yourself up. You know what I mean? And you just said, you know what, this is what it's going to be. And like you said, that's how you know things are going to work when things aren't easy. When you trugging through stuff, and nobody knows. All people see is those graduation moments. Nobody
Yeah,
sees when the curtains are closed, and nobody sees when money's getting tight. Nobody sees when you doing all this kind of stuff. They just see the graduation. They say, "Oh, he's doing a good job," and it's like
yeah,
like you said with the speech, nobody knows where this stuff is actually coming from, but me and God. So for you, in this situation of having your graduate, and I seen those pictures too. Them pictures was dope. Them pictures were dope. But I coming from everything that you went to that last week graduation, what can you say that you've learned about yourself mentally and spiritually throughout that entire process?
um, I think that because we naturally should evolve, that it's always going to be a process, and just making the right decisions every day. and knowing that some lessons you might have to learn once or twice, but some you won't. You know, you can just watch others and move forward. But I don't know. It's just a process.
Yeah, it's I don't know you. You know, I read, you know, from what I read from your post. After I read the post and I reached out to you, I started, you know, going on a lot of your stuff and reading a lot of your posts, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like a There's like a spiritual, like a it's like a different. It's a if I like I said, I didn't know you, but if I just met you today, if you never told me about anything, I would have never known any of this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And that right there goes to show that, you know, we tend to throw a lot of people away. You know what I mean? Whether it be, you know, they go to prison or whether they make a mistake and stuff like that. Everybody can change. You know what I mean? And you being given the opportunity to live your life. You know what I mean? And like you said, before all of that happened, that was just a warp speed of a moment that
Yeah.
that happened that changed some stuff, but that could make people look at you totally different. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
In that moment. And that's some of the mental play that even
Yeah.
family.
I think you know what, and I want to speak to this one point.
Mm-hmm.
I was skeptical about stepping in, as a principal, because again, my wife's vision.
Mm-hmm.
This is her industry. I am a licensed barber, but I got my barber license because I was trying to impress my wife.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, here I am. I'm in this foreign place, and I'm in a hair school in Atlanta, and it's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're sincere with what you do, and your motivation is different. I think about my brother Jefferson Ellie, who I'm fighting for his freedom right now. We got 188,000 signatures on the governor's desk. I feel like if I'm out here and I make the wrong decision, that quite possibly could reflect on him because they know I'm one of his voices right now. I think about all just the people that I left behind that aren't coming home, that aren't going to have the opportunity, that still call me for guidance or conversation or whatever it is. And I do feel a responsibility to change the narrative. And what society, I think, is catching on to slowly but surely is if you've never been through something, you're not going to be able to change a situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never drank alcohol, you can't tell an alcoholic how to stop drink. It's just not going to work. The world is hurt. The world is damaged right now. It's in pain. And it needs people that have, survived pain and hurt and damaged, and found a way to the other side and can reach back. And I just think it takes not necessarily people like myself, but because there's so many people like me out here, but yeah, people that have been through something. It's time.
Yeah. And I think, there's a lot more men who we tend to unfortunately, when things bother us, we tend to get quiet. You know what I mean? That's when men are something's bothering men when we're that's when we go through stuff is when something's bothering us. And it's not it shouldn't we have to learn to open up and speak. You know what I mean? I had a podcast a little while ago with a friend of mine, and he's a licensed mental therapist, and he was talking about that. He just had a podcast with Lil Scrappy, and he was talking about they were talking about mental health, and the one thing he said about men, he said men think it's weak to talk about it, to express themselves. He said, but once you release that off of you, he said you can be a little stronger. You know what I mean? He said you can't hold the weight of the world on you and think you still strong, man. That's no way.
No, mental health. Okay, so mental health, I'm big on, right? Mental health advocacy, prisoners' rights advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
In 2017, my little brother Tristan ended his own life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my family alone, um, addiction, mental health
Yeah.
issues, me going through the traumas I did, coming
Mm-hmm.
home. I hit a couple walls because I came home January 13th of 2020 after 17 years, after 16 years, 11 months in prison. Next thing you know, I remember the Kobe tragedy with his daughter and other
Mm.
passengers. And then right after that, everybody had masks on. We didn't know about jobs. Watching the news, people are passing away. And all I could think about is I came home and I don't know if I'm going to live tomorrow because the world looks like it's ending.
Yeah.
It was a lot of trauma. I came home married. I came home, all these things. And at the same time, trying my hardest to excel in certain areas. Came out on a mission.
And
So
nobody, I don't mean to cut you off, but nobody, when you come out, nobody has a blueprint for you to try to.
no,
So it's almost like war. Like you coming home
it
from
is.
war, and then they just tell you to go back into society, and it's like I've been trained to fight and kill, and now you're telling me to come back into a society to where if I'm arguing with somebody, I might be ready to just snap, but I can't do that. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not. It's a different.
It's I was never the I don't know the I'm not gonna be the guys that talk about they all macho, right? But
Me too.
I held myself down. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
man. I was in prison. I'm gonna defend myself, right? I had the reputation. I had the background. I had all that. But coming home, that those rules don't apply out here. I tell guys all the time, it's different. People don't fight out here, guys. Let's be clear. Understand what's going on. And that's why I'm big on when I'm talking to guys before they come home, I talk to them about emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to them about things like self-care. Therapy might not be your thing. It might be another route that'll lead to your healing, but some healing is gonna have to be done. Presently, the only reason not in therapy right now is because I got to get a new one because my other one, she moved offices. But I tell everybody, do what you have to do. I hit a couple walls, and the reason I say I'm really big on mental health is I know it got me through some dark places.
Mm-hmm.
I know it saved my marriage. If I'm being transparent,
Mm-hmm.
I know I tell people all the time, those that I love, I might be one of those people that have to go for the rest of my life to therapy. I don't know because I just know that I want to stay balanced, and I know I went through hell, for lack of better
Mm-hmm.
words. When I came, or just this year, I decided I wanted to get a psyche valve because me and my wife want to have children. I want to know what's going. I just want to know family history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, the psych says, "Hey, you're diagnosed with depression." And I was like, "I get that." Anxiety. I was like, "The whole world's got that." And then
Yeah.
she's like, You also you have type 1 bipolar." Um, and in hindsight, you're like, "Okay, that makes sense. I can
Uh-huh.
see something." And the most profound statement she said was, if it had a lot of type 1 bipolar comes from childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I'm not saying it would have went this way, but if somebody would have caught it, think maybe you would have ended up in prison. You wouldn't have went that way." Um, so that's why I'm big on mental health, right? Just in the communities, being proactive with the youth, because people don't express emotions and it comes
Yeah.
out the wrong way. And then for the guys that are coming home, it's in my heart to really push, legislate, whatever it is I need to do to get something built in, some sort of component for mental health 6 months prior to their release and 6 months after for that transition period.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they don't have it, but it would drastically cut down on the recidivism rate. It would easily cut through that.
And it kind of makes you think. Sometimes I think about that stuff, and I'm like, for a country that has so much technology, so many doctors, so many things that's going on, you have to know what people need. But in the Bible, it talks about the word witchcraft. And the word witchcraft, when you break that down into Greek, it's pharmakia. So in the English word is pharmaceuticals. So anything that makes you change outside of yourself is witchcraft. You know what I mean? And then when you look at, you know, it's like we know, like you said, the world is damaged. Everybody is stressed out. Everybody has problems, but they keep feeding you these pills and these drugs and stuff. And it's like you were saying, yeah. And it's like, you know, that people need something after the fact. You know what I mean? Just to calm that mental strain that some people have. But if they can keep people coming back, it'll, to me, I feel like that's to keep them rich. That's to keep them.
Prison is big business.
Yeah.
That's why part of why I do. We're trying to end prison labor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they pay a guy 27 cents an hour, and they're making, you know, who knows? I worked in an embroidery shop. I tell guys all the time this story, doing logos for the colleges, Radford, different colleges, varsity jackets, all that. And I was getting paid 62 cents an hour. And I know,
and those were going out, and you know they were making big money off of that.
Yeah, but see, that's the plight though, right? Everybody knows it. The cat is out the bag. Everybody, social media has exposed. But what can we do to challenge? What can we put in place? At what point do we understand we've got to start voting at a small? We got to stop waiting to vote for governors and presidents. We got to start voting for these smaller offices,
because that's who's in charge.
Right. We haven't got that part yet. I don't know. I don't know when we get that part, and I'm very vocal with that. You know, I just voted recently, and I was proud to vote. I was able to see President Obama and Raphael Warnock speak. It was amazing, all that. But what about the smaller offices? What about the offices that affect your counties? The offices that are in charge of where the penitentiaries, who's in charge of the penitentiary? These things, you know. But we'll see.
Yeah, I want you to let everybody know where they can reach you. You know, give the information for the school and the websites and your social media and everything where they can reach you at.
Most definitely, man. Again, thank you for having me. Definitely appreciate it, man. First and foremost, shout out to my wife. It was her blueprint. Again, it's Lasting Layers of Beauty Institute. You can check us out at www.lastinglayersofbeautyinstitute.com. And again, we have 15 graduates year one, 100% graduation rate, 100% passing state board. So we're definitely proud of that. Then you can find me doing my advocacy work. I've got a live stream. I do a lot of short clips on mental health, prisoners' rights, and stuff that I believe pertains to us. At V100 TV. You can look me up on YouTube, IG at V_100_TV, or TikTok as well. And we just continue to work. You know, that's really it.
I wanna say I appreciate you for jumping on my podcast, man. I want to get more people like you on my podcast, because I think, and we definitely got to stay connected. We definitely got to network together, and I think that we need a lot more people like you. You know what I mean? Because, like you said, there's a genuine spirit that you have that is like, I want to help, and that's that is just like, I don't have the words for it, but that's this real sign of a leader. You know what I mean? And it's just, we not even talking, and just me seeing that post of you on that podcast, and I was just like, I started looking at some stuff. I'm like, this dude is for real, man. Like it's we need men like you, and we need to bring this generation along. And I want you to keep doing everything that you're doing, because it's working. God is working through you, and everything that you're doing, whether it's, like you said, those are some tough moments, just always know that he gonna get you through it, and the drive that you have is gonna get you through it too. Ain't nobody gonna stop you now. You done got people who already graduated, and now he done put more people to push you along too, man.
Man, I'm grateful. I'm humble, staying focused, and just helping people, man. I feel like as long as you help people, like you're doing your part. It's not that hard. Like that's all you got to do in life. Just help people.
Yeah, and that's the best. That's the best feeling that you could ever have.
And the world would be different, man, if we get
Yeah.
some more people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, man. Yeah, salute to you as well, man, for
Thank you.
having me. And I got some more brothers that I know, man, that definitely got some powerful messages and are
Oh
doing
yeah.
some things in the community. And yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah. We got a network. If hey man, you send them my way, man, because I definitely want people to just I want to get that word out, man. It's a lot of people who have knowledge and just any everything that can just push the word forward and helping all this younger generation needs some help, and you doing your thing, man. I salute you to the highest, man.
thank you, man. Salute back.
You're on YouTube, baby.